Hey everyone, this is Javi, and I am the Bowtie Psychic. For one, I hope everyone had an awesome Halloween, whether you went out or not. I know that it was raining a little bit that day, at least here in Rochester anyway. So I am hoping that at least a lot of y'all stayed dry while you were out there trick-or-treating. Um, I also have to, and I was back like I want to say on Halloween. Sorry if I'm starting a little bit, but on the day of Halloween, I was also very tired that day, so I didn't have a chance to go out myself, um, and that's because I haven't been doing a lot of sleeping. I have not been doing a lot of sleeping at all. And the reason why that is because I'm going to be having top surgery next week or on the 13th anyway. So I'm both excited and uh, scared at the same time. But let me back up a little bit. And I forgot to tell you this: if you have not been able for whatever reason to listen to last week's episode, my name is Javi Mason. I'm also a psychic medium, an intuitive, an empath. I also do aura readings, and I also do picture readings. So that is what I do as far as um, my abilities, as a light worker. Also, I am an activist, a spiritual activist. I believe that in order for us to become who we are as people, we also need to talk about white supremacy and how it plays a huge part in how spirituality is seen and used in these days, and how we can grow as people, knowing our history, especially if you are a trans individual, um, queer, or a gender variant in general. So that is basically me, my abilities and why I do this in a nutshell. And speaking of trans, I'm a transgender myself. I am agender transmasculine, and I am going to be having top surgery soon, on November 13th, even though I am going to be out down for the count. I'm still going to be doing episodes, so I'm not going to leave y'all hanging in, in any way, shape, or form. But speaking of that, um, my surgery is like a huge part of this episode as far as identity, and how that will actually further my cause as a medium, and also as a person. So knowing the self and why knowing the self is very important when you're doing political work. Why I'm doing political work. Um, knowing the self, knowing the self is extremely important when you're doing the work. Knowing yourself spiritually is very important. I definitely want to stress that. But first, I want to invite spirit and my spirit guides to, guide my words in this episode because there is a lot to talk about. Um, so let me get started here and do a short prayer before I get started to invite my people. Dear higher spirit, I pray that you use me as a vessel. Whatever comes through is from you, the highest of the best of my guardians, ancestors, wise ones, guardian angels, archangels, ascended masters. I pray that whatever comes through for this particular episode is from you and is placed it comes from a place of light and love and is rooted in truth. And I pray that you put the white light of protection around me and those who will be joining me for this episode. Ashe. So last week, folks were given an assignment centering meditation and their reactions to meditation. If you were able to do it, post the results in the comments when I put this episode up on um, YouTube, or you can also do the same on on not Spotify, but Libsyn. where I post the episodes. And so I'm very curious to learn about how that particular exercise worked for you, how the results were. And the reason why I want to know the results and know what was this, what came up, so to speak, um, is because I definitely want to help you find out who you are, or at least begin to do so. Um, what you thought, what you're thinking, you know, how you're thinking, what you believe about yourself is on an unconscious level, and your reaction when you're in a certain environment. And you're asking, why is that important? Okay, well, all of that is extremely important. Knowing who you are and what you're thinking, how you're thinking, why you're thinking that, that same on that level, um, and your reaction to your thoughts and reaction to your environment is extremely important for a variety of reasons, especially if you are a spiritual activist. And I have a couple of reasons here, a few reasons actually. Well, one, if you have little to no idea about who you really are. Um, and I'm not talking about like knowing your name and things of that nature, or know who you are on a conscious level. I'm talking about a gut honest, deep rooted level, on that particular level. You're more likely to fall for anything and follow anyone who resembles a leader. And I've seen that, during my days as a street activist, as an activist in general, where there are people who are extremely charismatic and extremely, approachable and well read, and they resemble leaders. And it turns out that they have, done something grimy, or have done something to someone who, or to the community in general, that will put people in the community in harm's way. There has been many, stories on top of stories about, folks who have, sexually assaulted someone, or put someone in harm's way, physically, and they were seen as leaders in the community just simply because of who they were, and how they represented them, or how they presented themselves. So that's why I say that. Um, Reason number two, because if you don't know who you are, or not comfortable in your own skin, you will work against your own gut instinct, and your gut instinct is your intuition. And I'll talk a little bit about that, in a minute. And number three, when you go against your intuition, you're more likely to act on impulse or ignore dangerous situations simply because you believe you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, or someone talked you into it. And that's happened to me a few times. In fact, that's happened to me quite a bit of times. And so one story in particular comes up. So before I transitioned, I was extremely active, politically active, in my hometown in Springfield and Rochester, New York. And I was a part of a lot of causes, a lot of organizations. Used my writing, as a way of reaching out to the community as well, and I still do. I still do that through the Empty Closet and through my own blog, the Chuck Taylor Scribe. And so going back, I was part of an organization, um, a socialist organization here in Rochester. And I attended weekly meetings, sold the newspapers at the public market. I even went to conference a couple of times. Conference in Chicago is uh, very active, and also very informative. If you are into socialist politics or Marxism in any way, shape, or form, there's a plethora of literature that is at your disposal at this conference, which is one of the reasons why I went. So being part of this organization pretty much allowed me to be active in the community, and the organization in that I'm speaking of, which will remain nameless. Um, I was able to use everything, you know. I allowed them to use a lot of my resources, everything from my energy, my time, even my vehicle when I had one. Um, And even, when I was in college, when I was at Brockport, I you made sure they were able to come on campus and do, you know, a, or a meeting, to introduce people to this particular organization and the ideology surrounding capitalism and workers' rights. But during the year, I worked with the organization and worked with the members within the organization. I rarely felt a part of. Even after all the work that I was doing, I rarely felt a part of, and I always felt that I was there because of what I provided, not because they wanted me to be there or they saw something special in me, so on and so forth. I often felt like I was there because of what I was able to provide, and so my intuition told me as much. Um, and and something was wrong, and I knew that something was did not sit well within my spirit. But I ignored it because I wanted to be part of a bigger cause, and which was helping the community reach its full potential politically, personally, and plus, craved friendships. I craved friendships in political circles because I wanted to be surrounded by like-minded people, and I felt like we were all there for the same thing. And because we're there for the same thing, obviously, um, we were going to be working together and basically, you know, become closer. That's what I will, and so I can have long lasting friendships. And in fact, now that I think about it, I've always I always wanted that best friend. I've always looked for, that close knit group of people that I could have in my life for the rest of my days. And I didn't know that at the time, but I often, when I think about it, now, and when I think about it, think about all the times I've, you know, had those type of moments where I was just looking for some sort of belonging. Um, a lot of that came up as far as me, searching through organizations and wanting to be a part of. And so, long story short, I ended up leaving that particular organization. And over time, I realized, when I stepped back, I realized that I wasn't valued as a member and I wasn't valued as a person. I was valued as a commodity. I was valued um, as a resource. I was an asset. I was not considered a person in this particular organization, at least um, one that was worth, the time and the energy and the long term friendship. I was disposed of. I felt like when one of the reasons why I lost touch with this particular organization is because I moved to Buffalo, and there was really no organization or branch in Buffalo, so I was pretty much by myself, and was not able to be politically involved in an organization similar to the one that I was involved in Rochester. So when I think about that moment, I not only felt like I was disposed of, but I often felt like, looking back, that I was guilt tripped into going to meetings. Felt like I was dismissed because I wasn't a cadre, or a cadre is someone who is knowledgeable in Marxism and Marxist ideologies. And that was only a fraction of what I've experienced back then. I actually had, one of the cadres lie on me and said I wasn't involved, and said this to another comrade who I thought was going to be a friend in the long term, until I realized that he was believing what they were saying. So it was that type of stuff, that I put up with, and that was and I'm not only, in this organization that I put up with stuff like that, but there were other times when, I was involved in things, and, I find out, through the grapevine, or I find out through personal experience that, those people did not have my back for the most part, unless I was active in the community. And so I don't regret, my time with this organization. I don't regret being part of any sort of organization because in the particular socialist organization that I did a lot of work for and a lot of work through, I did find friends and I did find a few of them that I still keep in contact with. But and I love them dearly. They live in the Midwest, where I was born and raised, and I still keep in contact with them. So that they are not a problem. They are not a problem. I still keep in contact with those people, and I love them dearly. But at the same time, I was not aware at that time of who I was. As a person, I was not comfortable in my own skin. And granted, there was a lot of things going on as far as my identity. But when I think about, how I was at the core, I was not comfortable. I was not comfortable with how I thought. I was not comfortable with who I was. I've always had my own thoughts. I've always had my own way of doing things. And because I wanted to be accepted you know, as a person, because I wanted to be accepted in general, I stuffed a lot of my personal feelings and my intuition um, down. I suppressed all of who I was to become, you know, whatever someone else wanted. Okay. And so I was not spiritually connected, even though at that time, um, I was, I believed in spirit. I believed um, in the power of spirit. I believed in my own abilities to a certain extent, but it definitely not, at least back then, how it is now. And I just didn't follow my intuition. I did not follow my gut instinct. And there were many times when politically something went down, and in my gut, in my core, I knew that was going to happen. And, I felt like no one was listening, and I felt like I was not worth listening to. So I was definitely driven by fear. I was definitely driven by this fear of not being accepted, this fear of not being good enough, this fear of not being worthy or deserving of anyone's ear or anyone's time or anyone's energy, unless I was giving some part of myself or some part of my resource to something outside of myself. And it took years to overcome much of the fear that held me back. Knowing myself spiritually now, knowing myself spiritually now, and knowing who I am, transitioning played a huge part in that. Excuse me, I can't speak today. Um, it played a huge part in who I am. It played a huge me transitioning played a huge part in who I am spiritually. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. I knew at that time that something was not, correct as far as my own personal identity. But like I said before, I was very caught up politically in what was going on. In fact, I used politics as a reason to run away from a lot of things. I used politics to run away from my own self, and that's not what that is there for. Um, I now know that my identity, my power, my strength, it definitely comes from spirit. It definitely comes from, knowing, um, knowing oneself and embracing oneself. It's just, and I want to point that out. Knowing yourself is not enough. Knowing yourself is not enough, especially on a on an unconscious level. Knowing yourself is key. Knowing yourself and embracing yourself is key. Okay, like embracing yourself, um, and not caring too much about what other people think, and allowing your light to shine, and allowing your whole being, to come forth. That's true power. That's true strength, and that only comes from a spiritual place. I was actually listening to a video um, that was done by Javi Mason III, who is a queer trans poet. a phenomenal young man, and he was actually talking about the story, the Book of Job, or the book. I'm not the Book of Job, but um, Joseph, the story of Joseph from the Bible, um, and actually, referred Joseph to someone who was, who was trans. I guess he represented um, someone who was trans, because as he talked about the Bible, Joseph in the Bible, Joseph in the Quran, and Josephine, and Josephine. Um, I guess Josephine is like the female version of Joseph. I guess there was like a play version, and Joseph was he represented a trans person, or they represented a trans person. And so he told this beautiful story about Joseph, and Josephine. And the whole premise of this whole video was to show how threatening trans people are, and how threatening our power is. We're seen as powerful people, therefore people are they fear us, they fear our power, they fear our identity, because we stand in our power, we stand in who we are. And that's exactly how it is politically, um, whether you're trans or not, or whether you're out or not, because there are many people who are out, to their friends, but they're not out to the community at large, or they have socially transitioned with their friends, but not to, or, with their family or amongst family. You know, either way, either way, it is extremely important for you to have that spiritual foundation, especially if you are active politically. The reason why I say that is because it does not matter how many um, political organizations you become a part of. It doesn't matter how much you do. It doesn't matter how many articles you have written. It doesn't matter how many marches or protests you have organized or been active in. If you do not, you know, have that spiritual foundation, if you don't know your own power, if you don't know your own strength, if you don't even know why you're active politically, allow the work that you are not that you are doing, um, even though it's important, it may not be coming from a genuine place. It may not be coming from a place of power, especially if you're using politics to run away from your true self, or to prevent yourself from discovering your true self. Okay, and I say that from personal experience. I say everything I say, from personal experience. I knew that there was a lot of things going on with me, especially when it came to trauma, especially when it came to my own identity, and especially when it came to how I felt about my person, how I felt, you know, about my past. Like, I did not truly honor myself as an individual, and I used politics to overcompensate for that. And so, a lot of my work, even though it was extremely important, it was coming from a place of wanting to be known. It came from a place of fear. It came from a place of needing, quote unquote, or desiring. I had a desire to to find people who would actually care and love, about me, and people who would care about me in general. I wanted universal acceptance, which quite, to be quite honest, is not even real. It does not exist. So if it weren't for me going through my spiritual journey, and if it weren't for me, working with spiritual mentors, and or working with Nikila, because she actually got the ball rolling. Nikila Asha is also, and she's a divine interpreter, and she basically is a individual that I work with closely, and she is the reason why I'm sitting here, as Javi today. Okay. So she is the one who taught me, to look within myself, to use meditation to look within myself, and that's what I have been doing, and that's why I'm sharing all this with you as well, um, and stressing that stressing the importance of having a spiritual foundation, knowing yourself and embracing yourself and standing in your own truth, you know because politically you will not be able to express anything authentically. It would not be coming from an authentic place. None of your work will be coming from an authentic place if you do not have a spiritual foundation, knowing full well that you're using it to hide. Okay, and you're using your politics, to undermine other people, or to undermine yourself, or to cover up some sort of issue that you have not dealt with. And so that's why I want to stress as well that meditation does more than help you connect with your breathing. Okay, I know that in the first part of the exercise that we did last week, and I talked about this on the other episode, on last week's episode as well, that meditation, first and foremost, it really is about connecting with your breathing, and slowing down, and actually being in the present. But it's more than that. It's very much more than that. Meditation allows you to connect with your spirit guides and spirit. And that's where your gut instinct comes from. That's where your intuition comes from. And that's the reason, and that's what, one of the reasons why I want to bring up the intuition. A spirit and the highest and the best of your God's way of doing their job for you. They're literally guiding you. That's their job. Spirit and your spirit guides, the highest and the best of your spirit team. They are there to guide you, and they guide you through your gut instinct. They guide you through your intuition. Okay. That gut instinct tells you when and how to proceed. Okay. It tells you when and how to proceed with things. Okay. When you have that gut instinct, and you can have that feeling that something is not correct, or someone is not telling you the truth, that's not you losing your mind, and that's not you um, thinking that you've lost your mind. What I mean? It's not like that at all. Or you are just misunderstanding things, or you're paranoid. Okay, that's one of the reasons why people tend to ignore that gut instinct, or that red flag, um, because of the second guessing, and because of our society often telling us not to listen to our intuition, not to listen to our gut instinct. Okay. And to do so is not using common sense. It's illogical to do so. When in actuality, that's your intuition, is spirit's way of saying that something is not right. There's something not right with that person. There's something very very something is put off, that you're put off by something. Okay, that is your gut instinct. Could you imagine you using that politically, using that to your political advantage? Could you imagine, tapping in, and by meditating, asking spirit to help you plan a political strategy, or you use your gut instinct to keep out of harm's way? Like, say for instance, your gut instinct tells you not to go down a certain street, or to work with a certain person because something about their story isn't correct. It turns out that they're an undercover cop. Or your gut instinct tells you that you know a person, maybe it's time to listen to something that person is saying, and it turns out that they're telling the truth, and them telling the truth kept you from going or using a tactic that will put everyone in harm's way. Could you imagine that happening? That's a whole new way of looking at politics. In fact, it's not new at all. um, Psychic ability and intuition has been used, in throughout politics for centuries. There are books about this. To be honest with you, um, and this is a time for us to um, do things in a way that's more innovative and do things in a way that's unorthodox when it comes to our political strategies and our political tactics, and um, our spirit and our spirit guides, the highest and best of them, can actually help us with that. But in order for us to even tap into spirit and to connect with our spirit guides and our spirit team, we are to connect with ourselves. We are to trust our instincts. We are to trust our gut instincts. We are to, know ourselves as as spiritual people and as spiritual beings, um, and to honor that and to not run away from that, and to do some unpeeling, okay, and to do some um, gut work around gut level honesty, so we can unravel and learn about ourselves and continue to learn about ourselves, not only as political strategists or activists or, organizers, but as spiritual people as well. So we can become more interdependent and on each other, and trust spirit, in our spirit guides, and basically develop a toolbox, a spiritual toolbox that we can use, you know, um, politically, to our political advantage. And so meditation is one of those tools, that we can pull from our toolbox. And so here's our assignment. Um, for one, continue to meditate for at least 5 minutes, every day, for 7 days. Ask to connect with spirit and your guides, or the highest and the best of your guides. Okay. And so when finished, write down all you've heard and seen. And I want to do you a solid by give you a couple of things, important things. Always ask for the highest and the best of your spirit guides to come to you and introduce themselves to you. The reason why I say that is because there are low vibrational guides and there are high vibrational guides. The low vibrational guides are usually ones who are not spiritually elevated yet, and they may not know themselves, and they may not know um, who they are spiritually. They may not have evolved spiritually, in other words, and they may cause more harm than good, even though that's not their intention. So please be aware of that, and also protect yourself when you're doing this type of work. When you're doing any sort of meditative work, always protect yourself, because even though you may have high, you may have good intentions, and spirit may have good intentions. Your guides may, like I said, you have low vibrational guides that may be coming through, and you are to protect yourself from anything low vibrational. So those are the two important things. So, and once you do the assignment, by all means, please tell me, how all that works out through the comments, or not only in the comments, but, reach out to me, as well. My email is javithemedium.com. And so I would really, 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 really like to see the results that you come up with, in terms of this assignment. And I'll definitely post it, in the description too, when I post the video on YouTube. So on that note, let's take a break so we can get ready for a general reading for November. All right. And welcome back, everyone. This is Javi, and I am the Bow Tie Psychic. Let's get ready to do a general reading. And for just before we get started, I want to give you a synopsis of what we just talked about. What I just talked about, the general, as far as tonight's episode and the whole premise of it, basically using meditation to know yourself spiritually, and also to tap in with your spirit guides so you can know your spirit, yourself on a spiritual level. So you so you can be better politically, and to see um, what spirit and your spirit guides have in store for you. Because, like I said, if you don't know yourself on an unconscious level, on a gut level, honesty level, um, then politically, um, you can put yourself in harm's way by just following anything or doing anything that could be more detrimental than not. And I've seen that happen before, So by all means, this is the time to build a spiritual toolbox. But it's time to have fun, right? So let's get ready for a general reading for the month of November. Okay. Dear higher spirit, I pray to use me as a vessel, whatever comes through, from you, the highest and best of my guardians, wise ones, archangels, dark angels, archangels, guardian angels, ascended masters. Oops. Got all my cards here. What messages do you have for the trans community, trans people, gender variance, the LGBTIQA community in general? And I'm also, for those who are curious about what cards I'm using, I am using the Dreams of Gaia, the Dream of Gaia deck. This is one of my favorite decks. I use it all the time. It's a tarot deck. So it definitely has all the meanings just of any suit. And this one follows the elements. The suits are actually the elements. So you have earth, fire, water, and air. So what messages are you to receive for the month of November? What general reading? What general message you have for the trans and queer community? And the intersex community. All right. So I have this is the Maiden card. The Maiden card is one of the major arcana cards in my particular deck. Okay. It is upside down. What I'm getting is that it's time to be adventurous. We are not being adventurous enough. Okay. And I know that, because of the current political climate, we are not to allow that to scare us and to not so much as leaving our homes and not living our lives. Okay. Because we're not even allowing, this political climate is extremely scary. And I completely get it. I'm also very much, afraid because I'm always wondering, like, what is 45 going to do, But what I'm also getting is that we are to continue to live our lives and to continue to be ourselves and to continue to love, okay, to love one another. This is another, what I'm getting is that from the Maiden card is that this is the time for us to not only be adventurous, but, as far as our physical whereabouts and our destinations as far as where we go, but to be adventurous as far as our friendships, to do things differently, to honor ourselves differently, and to go towards a path that we've never been before. This is, I don't know whether or not um, like told y'all, but a lot of things are deconstructing. A lot of things are, you know, uh, falling apart, so to speak, as far as our personal life, as far as, uh, you know, how our values, how we value friendships, how we value institutions, how we value ourselves, all the thoughts that we had about ourselves and everything outside of us is changing. And so that's what that particular card is speaking on, the fact that we are to embrace that change and do something completely different, and to do it with bravery, and to do it without fear, um, and to not do it alone, um, and to pretty much venture on, and to not be afraid of the process. Do not be afraid of the process of change, because it's going to happen anyway. Change is extremely constant. In fact, is continuously constant. There is no way that change is going to stop regardless of what we do. Okay. So as far as our personal selves and things that are near and dear to us, they're going to change. They are going to change. And so what that card is saying is that we are to be adventurous and let things flow and let things happen without this whole fear of things falling apart, and we are doing everything to cling on to what we have, when in actuality, um, things are going to happen anyway. So this card right here, I love this card. This is actually the one of water. Okay. We are to keep our emotions in check. Okay. Keep our emotions in check, and to not be so afraid as to not trust people that are around us. Because of the deconstruction phase happening. Okay. The deconstruction phase is happening, um, to the point where we are not trusting people. We're not trusting uh, who was around us. We don't trust we don't trust who has our back at all. And like I said, a lot of friendships are pretty much falling apart because of what's going on. And for those who um, cannot see, because this is also a podcast, with an audio component. This is I'm holding a card, the one of water, and it's a dragon. It's a dragon, literally blowing into a heart, and like it's beautiful. The dragon is blue. He's very much fierce, and the color blue is a very calming color. Is a water color, and the water signs are actually um, water signs are usually very emotional. And what this card is saying, is upside down. So what this card is saying is that when it comes to our heart, um, yes, we are to be careful when it comes to our heart, um, but not to the point where we are shutting out people who have had our back, because not everyone is out to get us. Not everyone is trying to snuff us out. Not everyone is trying to make us worry. Not everyone is out here, wanting to cause us physical, emotional harm. And so we are to be aware of how we're feeling and what we're thinking, and basically be mindful, of how we react to certain people. I know beforehand I said, to follow your gut instinct. If your gut instinct is telling you that this person is not on the up and up. For one, this is why it's so important, to tap into spirit, because spirit will actually tell you whether or not this person is viable, for you in your life. My spiritual mentor, Nikila, she says something about doing a spiritual ground check, a background check, sorry, a spiritual background check. and basically tapping in the spirit and asking spirit, you know, is this person right for me? Is this person, you know, do they have my best interest at heart? You know, are they right for me? Are they right for me? Are they right for my life? Um, have they served their purpose? You know, because again, people are in our lives for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. Okay, and not everyone in our life is, you know, is there for a lifetime. There are people who are there to teach us a lesson. And I've had many lessons. I've had many people, you know, who come into my life, but they would disappear or, you know, ghost on me or whatever. And I would take it to heart and I would ask myself why. And it's because those people were not meant to be in my life. And they are teaching me to, you know, to let go and to have higher standards for friendships, you know. So this could be, that could be the reason why, you know, someone leaves your life, or has to, you know, leave your life for a short period or a longer period, or pretty much forever, you know. But then there are people who are in our lives who are ride or dies. They are in our lives forever. They were there for us through thick, thin, rain, shine, snow, sleet. They are there for us, and vice versa. You know, we are to trust those people, especially if they show how much they care about you, how much they appreciate you. Okay, we are not to walk around with so much distrust that we believe that everyone, you know, that comes into our life is trying to cause us harm. So that's what the second card I pulled is saying. There is also a beautiful card here. Is upside down. It is actually the two, so not the two, but the nine of air. Okay, the nine of air. Okay, and it's actually a beautiful woman. Her skin, it's not even exactly white, but it's like a, it's like it's like a clear crystal almost. And she has flames coming out of her nails, and she has a third eye with a rainbow crown. Um, and it's gorgeous, to be honest with you. She is gorgeous. And basically what this card is saying is that um it's time for us to know our true divinity. It's not it's time for us to know our true divinity and where we stand, and to know, you know, that, and it's upside down. This card is upside down. So this card is saying we are to know our true divinity as a people. And I'm talking about trans, intersex, and gender variant, and other gender variant people. We are to know our worth. We are to know our strength, and know our dignity, because we cannot afford to allow other people to determine who we are as a people. We cannot, like, we can't we can like we can do that, but it's not going to do us, because we have choice. We all have choices, but it doesn't. What that card is saying, it really does not make any sense to have anyone determine who we are as a people, because with everything going on politically and everything that, you know, our current, you know, president, quote unquote president, is saying, as you know, his words were allowing him to get the best of us almost, and to the point where a lot of us are questioning who we really are, because society is basically doing everything they can to erase our existence. It's not just the government, it's society in general. It's our society that is pretty much using their resources and using the resources available to them to determine that we are not worthy of life. And that is completely untrue. That is completely untrue. um, we are very much worthy, but we have to understand and internalize that message. We have to understand and internalize our divine divinity. As I said before in last week's episode, we were seen as divine in tribes, um, entire indigenous communities. We were seen as being beyond the binary, therefore we were seen as wise. We were seen as closer to God. We were seen as closer to spirit or creator. Uh, whatever higher power you choose to connect with. We were seen, you know, um, we were seen as powerful. Okay, by entire tribes and entire communities. Homophobia and transphobia are very much the product of uh, white supremacy, white supremacist Christian ideologies. And so, as a result, almost the entire society, has basically did everything and is continuing to do everything it can to make sure that we cease to exist. And what this card is saying, what the card that I just um, held up, is basically saying that it is time to let go of those old tapes, and it's time for us to fight. It's time for us to fight and destroy those old tapes that we put in, that society has put in our minds, and to stand in our glory, and to stand in our divinity. Okay, is to stand in our power, because once we stand in our power, we can do anything. Once we stand in our power, we can see who we really are on a spiritual level. When we stand in our power, we're basically we're standing with spirit. We're standing with spirit. We're standing, or whatever creator you connect with. You're standing on the shoulders of spirit. Okay, you're seeing, like, basically we are here. As I said before, we are here on this earth to basically teach people teach people lessons. This is show people and just show ourselves that, you know, we are very much we're not the other. We're not the other at all. And we're basically here to show folks that, look, there is more to the binary than this. There is no such thing as the binary. There is no such thing, as being a man or being a woman. Um, it only, you know what I mean? There is no such thing as that. Okay. There are many genders. There are many genders. Um, and there are many articles, that state that. Okay. So this is our time to stand, especially with the elections coming up and everything. This is the time to fight for, what we believe in. And basically, when we stand in our divinity, we don't have to convince anybody that we are worthy. We already are. And people see that, people who know better, when they see that, we will get their support. But we have to support one another, and we have to support ourselves individually. Okay. And so this is the seventh of fire. Okay, it's upside down. This fire is a testament of, like, the fire is our strength, is our determination, is our action. This is the action card. Okay, if you were studying tarot, um, the fire card, the action card, would be the rods. Okay, and seven is actually a lucky number, and what is actually a card that represents divinity. Okay, so what that is upside down. This card here is a woman. Um, it's the seven of fire, and the woman is she. If I let me, if it were up right side up, she is actually a woman. She's wearing a mask. She has a fiery headdress, and um, her arms are wings. Her arms are wings, and she is glowing. She is glowing. Her third eye is open. Her eyes have a determined look in them, and she knows who she is as a person, but it's upside down. And basically, what this card is saying is that this is the time to put um, to be action oriented. Again, a lot of us are in fear, okay, of making ourselves known. A lot of us are fear um, acting on our own instincts and acting, on our own intuition. A lot of us are still out here allowing society to tell us who we really are. Don't let anyone snuff out your light, okay? Because this woman is burning, like she is literally on fire, okay? She is glowing, okay? Because she knows her light, she knows her strength, she knows her power. And it's time for us to know our strength. It's time for a lot of us to know our power. And to basically, when we step into a room, people will know who we are, before we even speak a word. And so, with the card being upside down, is basically an indicator that a lot of us are dimming our own light. A lot of us are basically shrinking ourselves because we are pretty much afraid um, of letting people know who we are, or letting our presence be known. Because when we allow our presence to be known, we bring attention to ourselves. Okay, and because of the political climate, we're pretty much a lot of us, and I get it. Okay, um we're afraid of being hurt physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, even financially. We're afraid. We are afraid of letting our light shine because what ends up happening is that when we bring attention to ourselves, we end up we run into the risk of being hurt. We run into the risk of being targeted. And what that card is saying is that even though the fear, um, is very valid, we're also very protected. We're also very protected always. Um, and so what that card is saying is that we are not to dim our light. We are not to dim our spirit. We are not to allow any cis person to tell us that in order for us to live, we need their permission. Okay. So that's what that particular card is saying. Do not let your light dim. Let it shine. In fact, be extra trans. Be extra gay. Be extra, like seriously, be extra trans, because there are trans people who are also gay. Be extra trans. Just be extra. Be extra. This is a time for you to be extra. Okay. Be extra. Let people know who you are as a person. Let people know, let people know, let people know, let people know. Because hiding is not going to get us anywhere. It's going to be more of a detriment to you than it would our society. Our society already does not, care about trans people as much as we care about ourselves. You know what I mean? Only we can care about us to the extent, only we can, only we can look in the mirror and accept ourselves, embrace ourselves on a conscious and an unconscious level. Um, and we cannot do that if we're hiding. Okay, we cannot do that if we are letting society tell us, that we are not worth seeing, worth not hearing. So what that card is saying is that allow yourself to be extra. Okay. So this card in particular, this is this the oh, I'm sorry. This is not the seven. This is eight. The other card, the be extra card, is eight. This is 5, 6, 7. This is a seven of air. Okay, and it's upside down. Basically, it's an angel in a robe, and he's holding a book, and he's also holding a robe, not a robe, but a feather, um, attached to beads, and he has a sword around his neck, and his third eye is open. His eyes are white. It is upside down. So basically, what this card is saying, the one I'm holding up now, that we are not connected to spirit. We are not to, okay, so I'm sorry. We are not to allow theologians, okay, we are not to allow theologians to tell us who we are. That's what this card is saying. We are not to allow theologians to tell us who we are. Okay. There are people in this world that use, whether they be religious or spiritual, they will use their ideologies to become dogmatic. Okay, and when they become dogmatic, that's when they begin to use their rhetoric and use their knowledge um, against people, who really need to be uplifted. And the folks that need to be uplifted the most are trans and queer people, okay, and gender variants and intersex people. The reason why this card came up is because we have been told time and time again that the Bible said, or this text said, or that text indicates that we are an abomination, or it's been used that way. But in actuality, as I said before, homophobia and transphobia, queerphobia, um, and intersex phobia, anything that pertains to oppression, when it comes to us as a people, it stems from white supremacist Christian ideology. And to be honest with you, religion or spirituality is neither good nor evil until someone with ill intentions or good intentions treats it that way. Okay, so it's all about the intention of the person, is not the religious text. That's the issue. Okay, it's literally the intention of the person. And most of the time, in fact, all of the time, when a theologian, whether it be a pastor or a preacher, um, even the Pope, when they say that so and so is an abomination, gay folks are an abomination, trans people are an abomination, or there is only a man and a woman, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, that type of stuff. It usually comes from a place of wanting power. It always comes from a place of intentions, of bad intentions. It always comes from a place of a dehumanization that stems from that need for power. Because if you are a powerful person, like a truly powerful person, you would not have to do anything like that. But because the type of power that comes from white supremacy is so alluring, is pretty much an illusion. But excuse me, religion has been used by white supremacists, as a means to establish power, false sense of power. So what that particular card is saying, as far as is not to allow these theologians to use spirituality and religion as a means to diminish us as a people, because we are spirits people. Okay, we are spirits people, and we are not to allow to tell us, we are not excuse me, we are not um to allow these theologians who with ill intentions to say otherwise. We are spirits people. We are connected to spirit. We all have spirit guides. Okay, we are here to, and like I said, the main purpose, the main spiritual purpose of trans people and gender variant people is to show that the rigidity of identity, because there is no such thing as just a man or a woman. And masculinity and femininity are energetic expressions. They are not a determining factor as far as who is more manly, who is more womanly. There is no such thing. Okay. So this card that I have here is it is the sixth of water. Okay, the six of water. Okay, and so what this card is basically saying is a young woman holding a heart in her hand. Her hand is outreach. Her hand is stretched out. She's as if she's reaching out to somebody, and she's beautiful, and she's her. There's a lot of love in her eyes, and basically what this card is saying is that it's time for us to love ourselves and to give ourselves a lot of credit, to give ourselves credit and a lot of love um, for standing up. Okay, for standing up and being alive for this long. Okay, being alive for this long and know our worth. We are to know our worth. Okay, we are to love ourselves. We are to love our fellow trans people. We are to love our fellow gender variant folks and our intersex folks. But we also are to love ourselves unconditionally, because that's our society has tore us up, or at least attempted to. Okay, to the point where we don't see ourselves as worthy. We don't see ourselves um, we don't see ourselves as valuable. Okay, it's time to see ourselves as valuable, that we are very deserving of life. We are very deserving of life. We are very deserving of love. Some of you, I know that a lot of you out there who are watching also feel that you're not worthy of God's love or Spirit's love. You're not even worthy of faith. And what that card is saying is that you're worthy. You are worthy. You're very deserving. You're very loving. You are lovable, but you also deserve Spirit's love. Spirit loves all of us. Spirit loves us. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for Spirit. So we would not be, these spiritual beings, living human experiences if it weren't for Spirit. We wouldn't have our gut instinct. We wouldn't, have the capability of loving if it were not for Spirit. That's basically saying, when you look in the mirror and put yourself down, you're basically saying to yourself that Spirit made a mistake. We are not mistakes. You know what I mean? We're not mistakes at all. And so what that card is saying is that we are to love ourselves unconditionally. And whatever, society says, that is none of our business. That is none of our concern, as far as them telling us about, who we are as a people, what we deserve, and, that we are, you know, quote unquote freaks who don't deserve love. And that's not the case at all. We are very much God's people. We are very much Spirit's people. And we are to treat each other and to treat ourselves as such. And so here's the card. The last one is actually the six of Earth. Okay, Six of Earth. And what this card is basically saying, and to give you a description, is a man with horns. He's holding what looks like a tool. I don't know what this tool is. I apologize. He is actually um, he's actually chained and holding a bowl of fruit. Okay. It is upside down. What this card is saying is that we are not chained. We are not chained by any means. By any means. Okay. Nothing is holding us back for our own thoughts and fears. Nothing is holding us back but what society thought that they were going to get away with, and we're just internalizing those messages. Okay. No one is holding us back. Okay, nobody. We deserve abundance. We deserve safety. We deserve resources. We are worthy of those resources. Okay. Um, what this card is basically saying is that no one No one has power over us, but we do have power over ourselves and our own thoughts. No one has power over our resources. We actually have a community of people that we can count on. No one has power over our minds. Where we go. No one has any power over that. That's basically an illusion. And our society has put it in our minds that if that we are to not just go anywhere without facing consequences. And that particular card is saying is that that's not true. That's not true. We have each other. Okay, we have spirit. We have our spirit guides. Okay, and we are to give ourselves, and again, we are to give ourselves permission to deserve. We are to give ourselves permission to be loved. We are to give ourselves permission to love. Okay, and to give ourselves credit for being here and being strong, and see ourselves as confident people, to see ourselves as spiritual people who deserve abundance. And I don't mean just money, but when I think of abundance, I think of an abundance of happiness, an abundance of love, an abundance of life, an abundance of chances. We deserve all of that. We deserve all of that. Society does not get to dictate what we deserve and um, what we deserve and what we need and what we want. Like society does not get to dictate. They get to dictate. Excuse me. What we are worthy of or what we are deserving of. Okay, we do that. We do that. That's why a lot of us, are, who are, trans or, in political or gender variant who's political. That's why a lot of us are doing this work. That's why a lot of us are out here on the street protesting. That's why a lot of us are, helping each other out and giving each other resources, whether it be, uh, money towards someone's GoFundMe account or a PayPal account, or sharing somebody's work, buying a trans person's, you know, um, artwork or something like that. We are interdependent, you know, um, in a way, in that way, and we're out here doing the work because we deserve it, and we are very supportive of one another, and we deserve that support as well. You know, that's why we're giving each other money for top surgeries. That's why, we're buying going to each other's homes, to take care of somebody who had top surgery. That's why we are out here. We are out here supporting one another because we deserve, we deserve those resources, whether it be time or whatnot. And that's why it's so important for us, on a spiritual level, to see that we deserve. I can't stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. So is there anything else, Spirit? Basically, we are to be well. And we are going to do well, and we are going to get through, the adversity that we face every day. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. But we also need to, we don't need to, but we are also to know um, that we are deserving. We are deserving. We are loved. We are, we are very much lovable people. We are capable people with many talents, and many stories. Good, bad, and indifferent. You know, we are part of the divine. We are divine individuals. Okay, and we are to know our divinity at all times. So, on that note, this is the end of the third episode of the Bow Tie Psychic, I want to thank you so much for watching, for listening, and for allowing me to serve. Thank you so much. If you are not able to watch the episode on YouTube for whatever reason, you can also find the audio on Spotify. And this will be uploaded, the video will be uploaded on YouTube. So please subscribe if you love what you see, and love seeing my face all day, every day. By all means, subscribe. I'm also going to be doing some live videos on YouTube. So if folks want to do like get a reading, they can as well. I'll be doing mini readings, live many readings. Sorry, I won't be doing like a full blown reading. If you want that, you could hit me up by emailing me, and my email is Javi the Medium. Oh, I'm sorry, not Javi the Medium, but the bowtie psychic at gmail.com. Again, bowtiepsychic@gmail.com. In fact, if you have a personal question that you are not comfortable posting, on YouTube or Spotify or Libsyn, I think it's called. I'll put the link on there. Okay. You can also hit me up via email. Um, bowtiepsychic@gmail.com. I'll actually put that in the description, when I post it um, on Libsyn. Yes, I think Libsyn. Yes, Libsyn .com, where I'll be posting the Bowtie Psychic episodes as well. So thank you so much again for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, share and follow the audio on both Libsyn and Spotify. And thank you so very much for watching this episode. And again, I will see you next week. I'm looking very, very much forward to it. I will be, I want to say on the 13th, I will be having my top surgery, but I will still be here and very much in effect to do this work. I really enjoy it. And if you have any questions, comments, reach out to me via email or just leave a comment when you listen to the podcast or watch it on YouTube. So on that note, thank you so much again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the night. And I am out. Peace.